You just got handed exactly $1 trillion. But there's a massive catch. You have exactly 24 hours to spend it all, or you lose every single cent. The hardest part of this challenge is your own brain. We are mathematically hardwired to fail here because we literally cannot visualize the gap between a million, a billion, and a trillion. Your first instinct is probably going to be a giant shopping spree. You drive down to the local exotic car dealership and buy every Lamborghini, Ferrari, and McLaren on the lot, walking away with a $12 million dream garage. That might feel like a huge dent, but treating $1 trillion like $1 million is a mathematical trap. To actually drain your bank account in 24 hours, you'd have to buy out that entire dealership every single second. You need to skip the cars and move straight to the absolute ceiling of physical luxury. You hire 100 mercenaries, offer them $1 million bonus each, and send them to track down the top 100 super yachts on Earth. Then you buy the biggest cruise ship ever built and fill it to maximum capacity. Next, you buy up every single NBA team and force them to play on your ship's basketball court, while you send Snoop Dogg, Katy Perry, and Beyoncé to the International Space Station on private $55 million rocket flights. But even after assembling the most expensive entertainment package in human history, you haven't even spent 10% of your money. You might think you can just buy priceless cultural institutions to burn cash, but if you try to offer $100 billion for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the transaction fails. The museum is an educational institution whose assets are legally held for the public benefit, meaning nobody can actually own it. The harsh reality of infinite wealth is that physical objects are simply too cheap. To spend $1 trillion in a single day, you have to abandon the concept of buying items and start trying to buy reality itself. You decide to target urban real estate. New York City currently has roughly 33,000 vacant units. You hire an army of agents to snatch up every single one of them, tossing in a $100,000 commission per agent. But even top-tier real estate is a drop in the bucket. The most expensive real estate purchase in U.S. history was a $240 million penthouse. To a trillionaire, making that massive purchase feels mathematically identical to an average person spending $60. Since buying empty houses won't work, you pivot to the Middle East, a place where labor and ambition collide to build the massivest architectural megaprojects on Earth. You write a check to purchase all of them: the sinking artificial islands, the towering cubes, the world's largest picture frames. To understand how small these structures are compared to your wallet, look at the Burj Khalifa. If you stacked $1 bills from the ground all the way to its peak, that tower of cash would only be worth $7.58 million. You would need to build 87,000 of those money towers just to hit your trillion. Real estate, no matter how massive, cannot drain your funds fast enough. You have outgrown the concept of building a city. You now have to buy a nation. You start looking for a country with strategic value, and you land on Greenland. Based on the market price of its untouched mineral reserves, the massive island carries a price tag of around $200 billion. But there is a major legal barrier here. Sovereign countries are not for sale. When the US government actually proposed purchasing Greenland a few years ago, the country firmly dismissed the idea as ridiculous. Of course, a trillionaire doesn't have to take no for an answer. You simply allocate $50 billion to purchase a makeshift private military force to execute a hostile takeover. You buy fleets of F-35 fighter jets, a pair of aircraft carriers, ballistic missile submarines, and you contract 57,000 private mercenaries, one for every single citizen on the island. At this tier of wealth, legal purchasing power hits a strict ceiling, but when you have $1 trillion, you simply buy the military force required to override international law entirely. Naturally, conquering a sovereign island is going to trigger some intense closed-door conversations among world governments. Your next expense has to be absolute political immunity, so you buy the politicians. You price out the current top-tier presidential figures, locking in Donald Trump for roughly $1.5 billion, and then you purchase every single sitting member of the Senate and House. The entirety of American politics costs you a surprisingly low $7.2 billion. There's a flaw in this plan, though. Direct political bribery might influence the government, but it doesn't guarantee compliance from the general public. To insulate yourself from the masses, you buy every major media company: the New York Times, Comcast, Fox, Time Magazine. You then fund a solid week of global propaganda to force the public perception firmly in your favor. You are no longer just acquiring assets. At this magnitude, money's primary function becomes the total manipulation of truth and culture, just to protect you from the consequences of your own spending. With time running out, you resort to the final method of mass expenditure, systemic philanthropy. You decide to hand a $220 billion donation directly to the US government to help reduce the massive national debt, but you immediately hit a bizarre bureaucratic blockade. When you log into the official government debt reduction portal, you find that the Treasury physically caps donations at $1 million. Denied by the government, you look elsewhere. For just $2.2 billion, you could completely wipe out all existing medical debt in the United States. Then you drop another $40 billion to fully fund the UN's plan to end world hunger by 2030. Next, you try to pay off the nation's crippling student loan debt. But this introduces an economic paradox. The moment universities realize a trillionaire is bailing out their students, they will simply exploit the situation by artificially inflating future tuition prices. This is the ultimate irony of infinite wealth. You really want to fix the system, but systemic philanthropy is constantly blocked by the bureaucracy and greed of the exact institutions you are trying to heal. The 24 hours are nearly up. Let's tally the damages. You have purchased private militaries, conquered an island, bought the global media, and solved world hunger. And yet, you still have tens of billions of dollars sitting in your account. This visualization shows how your bank balance behaves at this tier. You are fighting an unbeatable enemy: passive income. Your wealth is aggressively ticking up, earning you $400 every fraction of a second. The median net worth for an American under 35 is $39,000. You are generating that exact amount almost instantly, and it never stops. The passive income simply outpaces human action. The global economy is simply not structured to absorb $1 trillion in a single day. So there is only one winning move left. You place the remaining funds into a massive trust, safely storing it away. You use infinite wealth to buy the one thing you actually need to spend it: time.